Well, happy Veterans Day weekend, folks. It's the real Captain Kirk here. We're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here in downtown Bethlehem, Pennsylvania here on Saturday. We're going to talk all things snow. I know that's going to make a few folks saying that four-letter word, but again, just tis the season, so thought we'd recap where we are so far. This is a estimated world season-to-date snowfall trend from 1 September through today. So again, seeing lots of snowpack up there in Alaska, Western Canada, Northern Canada, Greenland, all across Siberia. Again, if we look at these trends, map inside left there's about 300% more than last year. So again, a much snowier northern hemisphere, and that is a bellwether of what could happen here this winter. Typically, a snowier Siberia in October can lead to a colder winter here in the U.S., and that's certainly in the cards. Looking at season to date, no snowfall here from NOAA here as of 1 October through November. Again, all the snow's obviously pretty much been in the Western High Plains, Rocky Mountains, and again, far northern New England has had some, but again, not much. Really, Colorado's been the big winner here so far this year. Looking at snow cover here today, here as of the 9th of November, about 12.3% of the country. Again, Rocky Mountains have snow versus only 5.8% last year. So again, that's well above average. Normally about 9% of the country would have snow cover. So again, a good news sign. Again, if you like snow, this is also a good news sign here. This bars show the year-on-year change in snowfall here. So not as much here in the U.S. in October from a year-over-year perspective, but much snowier November here. So we'll see here that 17th through 23rd week could get pretty snowy and stormy across the U.S. We'll look at the 6-day snowfall trends here. Again, the big storm is winding down here in Colorado, so plastering their high mountains. Again, you see that fizzles here as we get to Sunday, and not much. Again, a little bit of a system, just high elevations in the northwest. But again, kind of a little bit of a lull here this week after the big snow here today in Colorado. One thing that's transitioning for sure is just the fall pattern. Good news, we've been driest in 37 years. September, October map left. Again, just bone dry for most of the country here. So near record dry. In fact, Northeast, many areas are near 129-year dry trends. But we see the transition pattern here. Again, fall is a transition season, obviously, and starting to see that pretty big time here with the wettest November in 6 years for these first 22 days. Even the Northeast here, again, the extremely dry conditions. We're finally going to see an inch or two of rain here over the next couple weeks. Again, so that will certainly help. We've had some fires even here outside near our offices here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Transition is a short-lived La Nina event. Models had earlier been projecting maybe this would get to a moderate event. While the CFS model is still kind of hinting at that, again, it's probably more likely to be a week at best and very short-lived. So, but a year-on-year perspective here of the ocean temperature shows very clearly a much colder North Pacific and much colder equatorial Pacific. So La Nina-like signature, which has obviously created our drought-like conditions we had in September, October. Look at the hurricane season. Again, we just added another name here, 17 named storms, only about 21 days. So we're winding down, and hopefully the U.S. is out of the woods here for any more systems. Rafael, fortunately, unfortunately for Cuba, is a landfall as a Cat 3, but it's making a left turn, a U-turn right here in the Gulf of Mexico. So it was originally going to head toward Florida or New Orleans, and now that's not the case. That's going to weaken and just die a slow death there in the central Gulf. Look at the 14-day storm track here. Again, you can see a stormy pattern, at least 4 or 5 systems. Big, huge storms that hit in the west toward Alaska, and then parts of that energy comes into the U.S. So again, definitely a change in the pattern here. So we've got 4, maybe 5 systems traversing just over the next 2 weeks. And yes, toward the end of this, we actually see maybe the first snows in the north-central Midwest U.S. So we'll see. But again, clear signs that the pattern is breaking down finally for those that want to see this drought end. Looking at last week World Summer here, ending today, the 9th of November here. Here in the U.S., 1.7 warmer than last year. Not as extreme as we had last week, where it was 10 degrees plus hotter than the year before, but still warmest in 4 years, third warmest in 39. But again, see all that cold weather in the west and the Rockies. Rainfall way up, 332% versus last year. Wettest in 5, fourth wettest in 39, so much above average rainfall. We needed it. Hopefully that expands here to the east. Snowfall also way up, 483% over last year, 19th most in 39 years. So average on the 40-year scale. You see all that cold weather was more toward Eastern Europe and Russia and Northeast Siberia. This time of year, we look at the polar vortex. I wish there were better indicators of predicting when this thing would become weak or ragged but again, unfortunately, it's a 14-day model. And again, it can give you hints at what's happening, and we see hints of that. So this is getting a little bit ragged, a little bit wobbly and ragged. So anytime the polar vortex is really strong and symmetrical over the North Pole, you keep all that cold air bottled up at the North Pole. Versus now we see this kind of weak, ragged, breaking down a little bit, slight pivot to the Alaska and the northwest Canada area. So again, you don't have to be obviously in the middle of this to have a epically cold weather, but again, signs of little tiny perturbations coming down toward the U.S. here. So we'll see that reflected here in the outlook. Looking at this week here, Veterans Day here on Monday. This week overall here, a little bit warmer. Max temps 1.6 warmer than last year, warmest in 8 years, fourth warmest in 39 years nationally. Snowfall, while up 200% versus last year's nothing, still fifth least in 39 years. So get a little lull here this week in snow, but that comes back next week. 39-year precip trends, again, 17% wetter than last year, 13 dries in 39 years. We were hopeful for Raphael's rains to come our way, but again, they're going to make a U-turn, so that won't be the case. Looking next week, again, we do see the pattern shift here again. So you see that about 1.7 colder than last year, 15th warmest in 39 years, but again, much, much colder in the western part of the country, spilling into the plains. In fact, if you look at this pattern beyond just the week here, again, it definitely gets colder as we get to the latter part of this week, even in the east. That snow in the depicted map left there is way overdone. Obviously, we're not going to see that much snow in Illinois, Indiana, but again, it's hinting at something of a colder, wetter, even snowier pattern. So the first snows of the season are possible there in the Iowa, Illinois areas. We'll see again, but snowfall up 315% versus last year, most in 24, fifth most in 39. Rainfall also way up 12%. Wettest in 9 years, 8th wettest in 39 years, so above average. So again, good news. We're seeing a sign of the pattern. Again, this is a benefit to retail seasonal sales that probably had a little bit of a lull here with the warmer, drier pattern, and now, again, probably going to pick up some steam here as we get toward the week before Thanksgiving, and then hopefully even better as we get toward Thanksgiving. Aggregating these world 2-week trends here. Now, again, you're maxing colds and warms and colds, but overall the theme is colder in the western half of North America here in the west, western Canada, Alaska, and cooling down a bit in Europe and across to Siberia. Precip trends here again show a lot of stormy conditions here, so much above average. Snow across the northern part of Canada and Siberia, and then obviously even into the U.S. here. And very heavy rain there in Brazil, though. They'll take it. Again, their crops are in the ground, and again, this is great news. They've been coming out of a multi-year drought, so good news for their crops down under. So with that, folks, we hope you have a great week, and we will be back here again this time next week.